Hey everyone, and welcome to Big Red Homestead. Today, we're talking Nebraska, Maryland, and there's going to be a lot to talk about. Obviously, there's some huge X factors in this game when it comes to how we got to stop Taulia Tagovailoa and this Maryland offense and what Nebraska can actually do to solve this offensive problem. We're going to be going through it all today. So it's going to be a fun one. Caleb, how you doing?
Man, I'm doing great. Another football Saturday, another chance to get bowl eligible.
Yes, sir.
Really fun season
3
for
left.
the Huskers this year, and I'm excited. This is another great quarterback challenge for us for the season. Hopefully, when we make the Big Ten championship, we get to see McCord as well, and then we can just hit the trifecta. Yeah, no, it's been a. That's right, baby. Our hopes are still alive for the Big Ten West. That's very exciting with the other losses. So again, we're still with a lot to play for this season, and we're playing a really good Maryland team who is also sitting at 5-4. They've beat Townsend, Charlotte, Virginia, Michigan State, and Indiana. And then they won 5 straight games and then now have lost 4 straight games. So if they lose today, it'll be perfectly balanced at 5-5.
That's what you're looking for, obviously, right? When it comes to their wins, they beat a Michigan State team, early in the year on the road and the Indiana, but then you look at like the Ohio State loss, the Penn State loss, and then 2 extremely close losses to Illinois and then Northwestern. It's been a strange season for them. Obviously losing 2 games like that it didn't seem like they at all should lose. Otherwise, their season would make a lot more sense. And so overall, right now with the odds in the game, it's interesting. It opened at about -4 for Maryland here. And it's got bet down to about -2.5 now. So slowly but surely, it's becoming more and more likely Nebraska finds the dub. Right now, it's at a 45-point over-under. And when it comes to like PFF power rankings, they see it as a pretty close one. Maryland's at 53rd, Nebraska's at 57. So it really is going to come down to these matchups, these X factors, and how we can stop this offense. So let's start on Maryland's offensive side here. What are your thoughts on this offense? Obviously, it starts with Taulia Tagovailoa.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty obvious. He's leading the Big Ten in passing yards with 2,486. He's hit over 200 passing yards in all but 1 game. And then he's hit over 250 yards in all but 2 this season. So again, very consistent. A great passer. He's completing 65% of his throws. He has 21 touchdowns this season to 7 interceptions. He has a great QB rating of 143.9. He's been very impressive. Again, he can get the ball to anybody, and I think that's where we transition to the wide receivers. He has 3 that are all sitting around 500 yards this season. Jashawn Jones, who has 521 yards, 4 touchdowns. Caden Prather, 484 yards, 5 touchdowns. And Ty Felton, who has 469 yards and 4 touchdowns. Again, that's just a sign of a great quarterback, able to spread the ball out really evenly between all of his targets. So much of what Maryland is wanting to do, if they don't have a great offensive line, they're trying to get that ball out quickly. And I mean, there's not a better quarterback to do it than probably Taulia. Again, their offense is quick, it's fast paced, it's balanced. And because they have a great quarterback who can make all the throws in the short and intermediate, it makes this offense, again, look really fast and dangerous.
Yeah, for sure. Right now, the offense is sitting at 46th in points per game and 48th in points per play. So they've been pretty efficient this year overall, putting up points. And they do a lot of things really well. I mean, obviously, when it comes to this offense, they're pass heavy. They're 12th in passes per game.
Yes.
So, and that's what you expect with a quarterback like Taulia. Even though like the run game hasn't been as efficient, they're currently 80th in yards per rush. They have multiple options that move the ball well, and I've been extremely impressed with how they run. So yeah, I mean, Roman Hemby so far has been their leading rusher, and it's paired with another guy who's been really efficient, Kobe McDonald. And Hemby's more of a little bit flashier, but he's still really physical, and McDonald can just ground the pound and hits you hard. So they have a nice 1-2 punch there with athletic playmakers in the backfield, and they're both pretty good pass catchers, especially Roman Hemby. They love finding these slip screens to him, getting him to the edges and finding and just another outlet for Taulia. The offense is just really a pro style spread offense with just a mix of read option, screen game, quick passes, and they get really creative with how they use Taulia out of the pistol, utilize play action and end around sweeps out of the pistol and in multiple formations from shotgun, and just get the ball out quick in general to ensure that, they find a few easy yards and some easy 3rd down conversions.
It takes a really disciplined defense. Taulia is so good at the RPO game and the play action passes. I think he does a good job of selling the run and the pass. Obviously, we know it's mostly going to be pass. Again, it's going to take a discipline to, be pedaling.
Yeah, I mean, we saw in the Northwestern game a few times, like even in passing downs, like 1st and 10, getting sucked in so bad on these play actions and making it really easy on him. So obviously that's what you're trying to avoid in a game like this. So when it comes to Taulia specifically, though, it has been interesting because yes, he's been good, but definitely not as good as past seasons, which has been interesting considering that in past seasons, their offensive line's even been worse. So like right now he's third. He has the 3rd most passing attempts in the Power 5. Shedeur Sanders is number 1. But, what's interesting is that he's currently only the 32nd graded quarterback on PFF, which I thought was pretty surprising considering when you watch him, it's still pretty impressive. And of course, he has enough athleticism with his legs to make plays and extend the play. And so he obviously ends up with a lot of time to throw the ball because he's able to extend the play. And I think they scheme it pretty well, often getting him on the move and allowing him to throw in space. It makes it really easy on him oftentimes. They don't throw downfield as much as you'd think they might. And that was a little bit surprising to me, just considering how often they're throwing in the intermediate or short distances.
So yeah, he's definitely accurate, but yeah, because of the offensive line, the quick pace of play, that's just not so much in their game plan, which is good for us. Although I could see them switch a little bit because that has kind of been somewhat of our weakness. It'll be really interesting to see how they plan to attack us. It is just going to take such a great individual effort on a lot of our guys because they are such a spread offense. I think on our linebackers, it's going to be really disciplined on the running game. But again, it is kind of a counter punch anyway. And they really, speaking of counters, they had a lot of really fun plays that they run. A lot of
misdirection
plays as well. Yeah, misdirection, trick plays, counters that are really going to take a disciplined defense to stop. I think that they mixed in a lot of creative stuff on their offense. Again, they have a lot of freedoms to do that with such a good quarterback. And also, again, with the offensive line play. We did see like a Northwestern team be pretty disciplined in stopping those runs. But again, because you're so worried about the pass, it can be really effective. And we saw multiple teams get burned that way.
Yeah, it's interesting because with Taulia, again, when he has time, he's lethal. He's currently the 21st highest graded quarterback in the Power 5 when kept clean. When pressured, he's 54th. So there is opportunity there to slow him down. And we saw some mistakes that he made in these games, especially in the Northwestern Illinois games. In one of them, at the end of the game, he overthrows his receiver. It's picked off and ends the game. And so there have been some mistakes. It's not like he's spotless by any means. Yes. And it's interesting. I thought this was really fascinating is that it's basically the exact same whether or not he's blitzed or not. He's 27th when not blitzed and 30th when blitzed. So it's really about whether or not you're getting pressure. So that's something we'll talk about in the X factors for sure. So on the defensive side for this Maryland team, they've been surprisingly efficient, especially on the ground when it comes to getting stops. I mean, right now they're 16th in opponents' yards per rush, which was really surprising for me when I saw that. And they're 19th in sack percentage. So they can definitely get to the quarterback. They can definitely stuff you up the middle, which is not a great recipe for Nebraska. So what are your thoughts on this Maryland defense?
Yeah, just a really solid defense. Not like in years past with Maryland where, again, they can have a flashy offense, but the defense is a big weakness. They really feel like they're upgraded and just really solid in like all of their stats. They're middle of the road in opponents' points per play. But yeah, 19th in sacks percentage really gets you worried. They have 7 different players with at least 2 sacks and 4 players with at least 3 sacks. Donnell Brown, highly graded player on PFF. Yeah. And he looks it on the tape. He gets a lot of pressures per game.
Great edge rusher.
3 sacks. Yeah, 3 sacks. And again, the edge is a weakness for us. And he looked good and dangerous. Again, at different moments, they had guys coming up the middle, a bunch of different guys that make plays. I also think that Maryland was really timely on blitzes. We saw that they were really good at drawing up a delayed blitz with a linebacker or a corner and really caught a lot of offenses off guard. And I was really impressed with, again, them really using it at opportune times. So it makes sense why they're so high on sack percentage, because when they do dial up blitzes, it is effective and will be a big problem for Nebraska this upcoming game. And again, it's going to take a lot of communication. And when you see a team like Michigan State where they're not that highly rated and we played a horrible game this last week, and then if you get down and have to pass again, this can be a really big problem for Nebraska.
They didn't give up much on like first or second down on the ground. And so they put you into these like 3rd and 6s, 3rd and 7s and make it tough on you to convert. And so that's probably a worry for me in this game for sure.
Yeah.
And like you said, like Donnell Brown, like he's just a really well-rounded player. He gets hurries. He makes stops on the ground. I thought I was just, really impressed with him overall. Secondary too, I thought they get around pretty well. They obviously have been tested and they cover efficiently. And so overall, like you said, just a really balanced defense. And they play a lot of they play a lot of nickel. So they run a lot of, 4-2 nickel. And they had a few moments where they mixed in some 3-3 stacks or some 3-3-5 stack.
Yeah,
and
they did.
a few other interesting, like very pro style, multiple defense type of packages where they'll have like 2 down linemen and really disguise. So I like how they play defense and it's fun to watch. And, there's not an obvious weakness on this defensive side. And that's tough. So with that said, let's head into X factors here. What's the X factors here on the defensive side?
I think, again, like we said earlier, being able to get home on sacks. We saw last week that we blitzed a lot during Michigan State, but just didn't do a great job of getting there. The thing is, with the spread offense, they're only going to have, 5 blockers a lot of the time. So if we're sending 0 blitzes, we are going to have to get home quickly and be aware of the pressure and be able to play well. I think a lot's going to fall on our corners this week.
But what's going to change? Like, how do we actually end up getting home, though? Because hopefully Prince will be back, and so he'll have more snaps, and we saw how efficient he's been. But, again, you don't want to rely on a true freshman to be the guy in the pass rush. Like, what are we going to change over these next, over in this game that's going to be different from the last few?
Them being spread and them only having 5 linemen is going to be a difference maker. So I think there's going to be more 1v1 opportunities. So that's kind of my hope, is that in those 1v1 opportunities that we can really win this week. We've seen that Reimer has been effective this year. We've seen that Gifford has been effective this year. They weren't last game, but I think that they can really be effective this game. I also think it's going to be mixing it up.
I'm more interested this week to probably see Javen Wright or Mekhi Bior out there.
Yeah, that's true.
Instead of like John Bullock or Nick Henrich, when it comes to how much zone coverage we're going to have to play.
Coverage.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So
that's not his strength.
I'm okay with giving up the 8 or 9 yard run this game if we're not going to give up the 10 or 15 yard screen passes. And we've seen Javen Wright, not to mention that Javen Wright's been a much better pass rusher on the season. Yeah. So, that's an area I want to see. Mekhi has been hit or miss this season when he's been on the field. He hasn't played as much these last few weeks, but hopefully
he had a little bit better game last week.
Yeah, exactly. And so I would hope to see a little bit more explosiveness there. And hopefully a breakout. Because again, I just don't want to rely on Nick Henrich or John Bullock to make plays in the open field in a game like this where we know they're going to try to expose these guys. Obviously, tackling in space and getting to the edges. We've seen the corners do a pretty good job this year of coming up and making plays at the line of scrimmage in space. So that's been a huge improvement this season versus some past years. Like if we played this Maryland team and how they like to play in these past few years, I'd be even more worried. Overall, the play in space has been solid. And so you like to see that from the defensive side. Like you said, the pressure is going to be here on Tommy Hill, on Quentin Newsome. It'll be interesting to see now with Marquez Buford back, if we actually end up seeing Hartzog move maybe back to corner and we have them all playing at the line of scrimmage this week. Of course, he was hurt last week, I think concussion. And so we don't actually know if he's going to play this week, which is unfortunate. But yeah, Buford being back is going to be interesting. He's going to be tested in this game for sure, too. When it comes to the offense, how do we move this ball? The narrative would be like, even if we held Maryland to 17 points, could we score 20? That is a real question.
Yeah.
We don't know. And so we saw Maryland, again, lose to Illinois and Northwestern. They lost 27-24, 33-27. Are those score lines that we can put up?
I think here the big thing is, I think we got a lot of great tape from last week because we saw that in those situations, Maryland is also comfortable going into man coverage, playing physical. I think that their defensive backs also like playing physical, a little bit rough on the edges. So there's going to be 1v1 opportunities for our young wide receivers. Can we make the play? And that's the difference in the last 2 games against Purdue, against Illinois. We were able to hit the big home run, but we weren't able to do it against Michigan State. We have to convert one of those this week because Maryland is going to give us, they are going to dare us. They're going to dare us like Michigan State to hit those shots, to win those 1v1s because they're going to want to stack the box on us. We're a good running team. That's really what we can do. But the other exciting thing is we saw a lot of teams attack the edges. Both Illinois and Northwestern had a lot of success on the edges against this team,
right? On
runs to the edge. Can we get these jet sweeps? Can we do some of those counter pitches again? I think speed option will be able to work here. They play a lot of single high safety. So again, just working toward the edges. There was plays where, again, there was, had advantages for both Northwestern and Illinois that we can absolutely steal some of these plays and see if they can figure it out against us, because they found a few ways to be successful in the tape that we saw during our film breakdown in Patreon. And I think that some of those plays are really that can really work against them. And again, being creative, being willing to take the shots, because we know we've seen Maryland, they're going to run some trick plays. They ran a Philly special. Again, we've seen this is November. Right. Teams are going to be creative, trying to get wins, trying to get bowl eligible. They're one win away from it too. They're going to throw everything at them. So we need to open up the playbook for the kitchen sink as well, because I know that Maryland's going to this week.
Right. This is exactly why I never really thought there was going to be much of an actual debate on who's going to start this game, because you cannot take the time now to worry about whether or not Purdy is, succinct with the offense or all these things. We need to roll Harburg out there and just deal with it. And even though he's been absolutely horrible and one of the lowest graded passers in the country, but regardless, like you said, you have to get creative in this game and dial some things up. And on the rewatch, I went back
to the Michigan State game. The difference was the Alante Brown touchdown pass that won them the game
for sure. And Rhule talked about that in the press conference. He was like, it's a game of inches. We were we were a few inches from tipping that ball. We were a few inches from knocking it down. All of these things. And on the rewatch, when I went back and rewatched the Michigan State game, and I was looking at Harburg and on some of the pre-snap reads, and he definitely misses some of the fundamental stuff when it comes to where the ball should pop out. He knows the play call, what's coming up next, and he should be able to find some opportunities there in the pre-snap where someone might be open, and it just didn't seem like it was happening in that game. And that's what gets me worried. It doesn't seem like Harburg has some of those plays in him that normally you would when it comes to making the X factors. And again, in the Northwestern Illinois game, both of those teams made some unbelievable plays to win and put up the points that they needed to beat Maryland. So that's where I get worried. So with that said, let's head into predictions and talk about this game. Caleb, where are you at with this thing?
Man, it's going to be a very close game. The biggest difference is when Maryland lost those close games, Illinois and Northwestern, they had a combined one turnover between the two games with them.
Yeah.
And then Maryland were forced the mistake. Those defenses won the turnover battle.
Maryland had two turnovers against Northwestern. Northwestern had 0, and Maryland and Illinois both had 1.
And the good news is our defense has proven that, in those games that we've won, the close games that we won, we got the turnover. We made, the blocked punt or the forced fumble or the pick.
The kick.
We had multiple. The problem is in the Michigan State loss, we didn't win the turnover battle. Or again, we've lost every turnover battle. We turned the ball over. We put the ball on the ground, but our defense was able to force a couple
and find points for the offense.
And exactly, because we absolutely need that to win games.
We are Iowa.
Yes, again, we are. Our offense is not good enough. Heinrich Harburg, like you said, is rated 86th graded on passes 20 yards downfield, and we think
last in the Power 5.
That's where we saw Illinois and Northwestern win the game, was on big time throws of those 20 yards plus down the field. All these games were to the wire, to the knife's edge. They had to make plays. Nebraska is the second lowest graded passing offense in the country. We're 132nd. We're worse than Iowa. We're literally worse than Deacon Hill in the passing offense right now. And so that's tough. Does our offense have enough? Can our defense get the turnovers? I think it's possible. This is going to be a close game, I think, but we've continually proven that we turn the ball over too often. Our defense has been hit or miss on getting the turnover to win the game for us, because the sad truth is our offense absolutely needs it for us to score the game. But I just don't think Nebraska has enough on offense, and I think we're going to get a little gassed. I think the way that they move the ball, this pro style spread, is going to be enough of a problem, because that is a little bit of our weakness. But I do think that we lose this game 28-17. I think.
Oh wow, that's a lot of points.
Yeah, I think. Again, I think our offense is just going to cough one away. And I think Taulia is way more opportunistic and better at scoring than these other teams. So we give him short field. It's much more of a problem than these last few quarterbacks we've seen.
Yeah, man, that sucks. Before, with the 4-point line, when I first thought, I was like, well, at least I would pick Nebraska to cover. So now it's tougher though on the 2.5 point line. That's a harder cover. So overall, when it comes to the matchups though, I agree. I'm worried because again, the theory on this defense, which now it's in question, the teams that beat us are the athletic quarterbacks who have playmakers on the edge, like NFL level playmakers on the edge. Obviously, Colorado, Michigan, and then Michigan State came out and they were starting to hit on some of these. And obviously we struggled a little bit, but it was really just the scripted drives that came into play. And like you said, the lack of turnovers, and then the offense just put them into some horrible field position situations. Which
our defense still looked good.
The problem is though, right, and like in the second half, they kept us in the game, forced multiple 3-and-outs in a row, and they looked a lot better.
A chance to win.
Yeah, and the offense had the ball with a chance to tie it up.
Yeah, our defense is still good. Don't get me wrong.
Exactly. So that's why I was a little bit surprised you went with 28, because I think the defense could hold them to under 24. It just comes down to whether or not the offense can actually put up those points. If Maryland was a Maryland team of the past, I'd be more confident, but this defense is actually respectable. And considering the opponents they faced, yes, Northwestern beat them. Yes, Illinois beat them. But like you said, it came down to turnovers. It came down to Northwestern making some incredible plays downfield. Brandon Sullivan had 255 yards passing in that game. And Sullivan also had 56 yards rushing in that game. And like he dominated. And in the Illinois game, Altmaier had 206 yards passing. They hit on some big time plays. They forced it to turnovers. When I think back to last week for Nebraska, it really was the same narrative on the offensive side from the previous 3 weeks, except
our offenses look pretty much the same.
It was the exact same. It's just that the plays didn't happen.
The same offense. We've looked like the same offense for 4 weeks, and it looks like we just kind of stalled out on the improvement. I mean, it hates to feel like that we've peaked a lot, because I know there's a lot that we can improve on.
That's why I'm worried.
We haven't been able to level up in these 4 games.
I was literally just about to say, I'm worried that this team may have hit their ceiling. Just with the talent that's on this team
offensively,
and how especially offensively,
still has some other levels.
Maybe. I don't know.
It just feels like our offense has had such big gaffes, and we haven't really paid for it in a lot of ways. Like,
that's the issue, is that you would have hoped that you'd see a little bit of improvement on the offensive side. Obviously, the injuries come to play. So maybe Billy Kemp. We haven't actually mentioned him in this video. But Billy Kemp is an X factor. If he plays, then maybe you can start finding something underneath, get Harburg more comfortable in the passing game, and then suddenly we start seeing this offense run a little bit better. I mean, the question would be is whether or not we trust this running game. But the mistakes have been what continues to derail the drives. Like even last week against Michigan State, we start that drive off with like 2 huge runs, the Emmett Johnson run, the Yant run, but then the drive gets derailed. And it just doesn't seem like we're going to be able to string together enough consistencies with an offense that's probably going to find a few big plays against us in Maryland to put up the points to stay in it. So
and the problem is, like, on our scripted drives, like I haven't like paid the price. We haven't been good on our scripted drives really this season because of our offense. And that's been another problem too, is like the scripted drive has killed us the last 2 weeks on the defense. And so there's clearly enough that they can script it to beat us. And our offense hasn't won the scripted drives, hasn't been able to get into those to get points and convert off that.
The narrative that I do think could happen is that we just actually find the running game this week. And like you said,
on the edge, there's a chance.
Oh yeah. I mean, it comes down to trusting the speed options.
We are Air Force. We are speed options.
Yeah. And so Satterfield decided last week.
And we just run it.
That's what it felt like last week, is that Satterfield ended up calling the game and let MSU decide how the game would be called. And he didn't stick to our identity. And so I still have a lack of faith in Satterfield and how he calls games overall. And pair that with Harburg's lack of faith in Harburg's passing downfield, that's where my lack of comfort in picking Nebraska to win this game, even though it's at home. And this is a game Nebraska can absolutely win. Like you said, it comes down to whether or not you hit the big play this game, or whether or not you find the field goal or the blocked field goal return for a touchdown. And it's hard to predict those things to happen. I don't have the faith to pick it. Also, the same reason why I picked us to lose to Purdue. So I'm going to pick us to lose to Maryland, which is terrible. But yeah, I'm going to go a little bit closer.
We're wrong, and then we dominate. Obviously, that's the hope. But
yeah. Right. Yeah. I'm going to go a little bit closer. I'm tempted to go the exact same score as the Michigan State game. Just go 2017. Which, I mean, it feels about right, you know? But I'll go 23-17 and and pick Maryland there to cover.
Let's just run it. Let's run it 50 times, speed option.
Embrace the identity. I think it's the only way we actually have a chance to win. We throw less than 18 times, and you're a sniper on the offensive side. You take the shot only when you absolutely think it's there. And otherwise, Harburg should just be willing to run the ball and find these small yards and trust the defense to win the game. But in the long run, I don't trust a team to make the call. And that's really what it comes down to versus a talented offense and an X-factor quarterback. And the other 2 X-factor quarterbacks we played this year have beat us and found ways to put up points. So that's as simple as it gets for me. I really hope that's not the case. And I hope the offense establishes the run and we actually find some points, but I'm not going to bet on it. So that is it, folks. Drop your comments down below. Hopefully Nebraska can pull this one out and find the bowl. Nebraska has 3 chances this year against tough offenses with offenses who struggle with Wisconsin and Iowa. So we'll see. But it should be a fun one. We have
real chances, yeah.
Drop your comments down below. Join us on Discord. Join us on Patreon. Support the channel and have a ton of extra content there. And of course, check out the HOMESTEAD Store.
Yes, sir.
I've been loving this. I've been wearing this hoodie like every day. It's so fire. It's so good. So comfortable. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, drop your comments down below. But as always, I'm Josh. That's Caleb. This has been Big Red Homestead. And guys, we'll see you next time. Go Big Red, baby.